Welcome to this new episode of the Neural Network podcast. We're your hosts, and today we're diving into a debate that's been heating up the tech world: Bitcoin versus quantum computing. Is it a real threat or just a lot of noise?
Whoa, sounds like a big deal. I mean, quantum alone makes it sound like the future is here to wreck things. What's the story?
Exactly, we're going to break down why people are so worried about quantum computing breaking Bitcoin, whether that fear is justified, and how Bitcoin is already gearing up for this potential challenge. But here's the kicker: it might not be as catastrophic as some think.
Okay, now I'm curious. Is this something that's really happening, or are we just indulging in sci-fi level panic?
You're not the only one asking that, and to all our listeners, if you're enjoying these tech breakdowns, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Let's dig in. All right, so let's start with the basics. What is quantum computing, and why does it have people so worked up about Bitcoin?
Yeah, let's start there because quantum just sounds like something out of a Marvel movie. What even is it?
Fair. So quantum computing uses the principles of quantum mechanics, think superposition and entanglement, to perform calculations at a scale classical computers can't touch. For example, instead of processing one calculation at a time, a quantum computer can process many simultaneously.
Okay, that sounds like it's on steroids compared to my laptop.
Pretty much, and here's where Bitcoin comes in. Bitcoin relies on cryptographic algorithms like elliptic curve cryptography for wallets and SHA-256 for mining. These are incredibly secure for classical computers, but quantum computers, they could theoretically crack these algorithms much faster.
So Bitcoin just gets obliterated by some quantum superbrain. Is that it?
Hardly, Eddie. Let me step in here. The panic is overblown for a few reasons. First, quantum computers aren't there yet. They need millions of stable qubits to crack SHA-256, and we're at, a few hundred unstable ones. Second, the Bitcoin community isn't sitting on its hands. There are plans like BP360, which introduces quantum-resistant measures.
Wait, Gerard, what's a BIP? And 360? Sounds like a skateboarding trick.
HADA BP is a Bitcoin improvement proposal, a kind of blueprint for enhancing Bitcoin's the protocol. BIP 360 specifically outlines ways to make Bitcoin wallets and addresses resistant to quantum computing attacks.
So it's like upgrading the armor before the enemy even shows up?
Precisely. And let's not forget, Eddie. These quantum fears are often hyped by people who don't understand the tech or have an agenda, like pushing alternatives to Bitcoin.
True, Gerard. But let's not completely downplay it. Quantum computing is advancing, and Bitcoin's cryptography will need to evolve. The good news is we've got time and a proactive community working on it.
All right, I'm feeling a little better. But why are wallets the main target? Isn't mining more important?
Great question. Here's the thing: wallets are more vulnerable because they expose public keys when you make a transaction. A quantum computer could theoretically derive the private key from that public key. Mining, which uses SHA-256, is much harder to break and would be a secondary target if quantum computers ever get that powerful.
Eddie, think of it like this. If wallets are the front door to your Bitcoin, mining is the foundation of the house. It's way easier to kick down a door than to bulldoze the entire foundation.
Got it. So wallets first, mining later. But how is the community preparing for this? Like, are these BIPs enough?
Let's get into that next. But first, let me ask, ready to dive deeper into what BP360 and quantum-resistant cryptography actually mean?
Totally, Gerard.
Always ready, Muriel.
All right, let's break down what BIP360 brings to the table. It's not just a reactionary measure, it's a proactive step toward a quantum-resistant future for Bitcoin.
Okay, so what does it actually do? Like, what's in the toolbox?
The main feature is a new type of Bitcoin address, starting with BC1R. These addresses are designed to work with post-quantum cryptographic algorithms, making them much harder for quantum computers to crack.
So, if I've got Bitcoin in an old wallet, do I need to move it to one of these new addresses?
Exactly. Users would transfer their funds from older wallets, like Segwit or Taproot, to these new quantum-resistant wallets to stay ahead of the curve. And the beauty of BIP360 is that it's backward compatible. That means the transition doesn't break anything in the current system.
That's cool, but how soon can people start doing this? Are these quantum-resistant addresses ready to go?
Not quite yet, Eddie. Development takes time. The Bitcoin community is testing different post-quantum algorithms like Falcon Sphinx and even hash-based options. Each has its pros and cons. Some are super secure but too bulky for Bitcoin's blockchain.
Bulky? Like, how bulky are we talking?
Imagine a public key that's 16,000 bytes long. For Bitcoin, that's like trying to fit a truckload of data into a bicycle basket. Not practical.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like a nightmare for scaling.
Exactly, that's why there's so much debate and testing involved. The chosen algorithm needs to be secure, efficient, and scalable. One promising approach is lattice-based cryptography. It's lightweight and quantum resistant, but it's still in its early days.
And this isn't something that happens overnight, right? Like, these algorithms need to be standardized first.
You're on the money, Eddie. Standardization can take up to 10 years, especially for cryptographic systems. The National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, is working on this globally, but we're not there yet.
And don't forget, Bitcoin isn't in immediate danger. The quantum computers we're worried about are still hypothetical. It's like preparing for a storm while it's still sunny.
So this is all about staying ahead of the game. But let's say someone doesn't move their Bitcoin to one of these fancy new addresses. What happens then?
Great question. Their funds would still be secure for now, but they'd be at risk in the long term, especially if their public key is exposed on the blockchain, like Satoshi Nakamoto's early wallets, for example. Those are prime targets.
Wait, Satoshi's wallets are vulnerable.
They are, Eddie. Back then, Bitcoin didn't use hashed public keys for transactions. Those early wallets have their public keys sitting right there on the blockchain. If quantum computing advances enough, those wallets would be the first to go.
Oh, so the legend himself isn't safe.
Not entirely, but remember, it's a distant concern. The key takeaway is that the Bitcoin community is already preparing for this future with steps like B3P60. They're ensuring that when the storm comes, Bitcoin is ready.
All right, I feel like I'm learning a ton here. What's next? More on the algorithms or how users can prepare?
Let's talk about what individuals can do now. Ready?
Yeah, let's do it. Gerard?
So, what can the average Bitcoin user do today to stay ahead of the quantum curve? Let's break it down into a few actionable steps.
Yes, please. I need a survival guide here.
First and foremost, avoid reusing addresses. Every Bitcoin transaction should have its own unique address to minimize the risk of exposing public keys.
Got it. So no copy-pasting the same old address every time I want to receive Bitcoin?
Exactly. Next, keep your funds in modern wallets that support SegWit or Taproot. These wallets already implement better security practices, and they'll likely be compatible with quantum-resistant updates when the time comes.
And what if I've got an ancient wallet? Like one I've been holding since the early days?
Good question. In that case, consider transferring your funds to a newer, more secure wallet. It's like upgrading from a flip phone to a smartphone. It's just safer and more functional.
And let me add, Eddie, pay attention to Bitcoin updates and development proposals. BP360 isn't just for developers, it's for the community. Keeping an eye on progress ensures you won't get caught off guard.
Okay, I'll be on the lookout. But what about backups? Should I be worried about quantum computers cracking my backups too?
Backups are critical, but they're not directly at risk from quantum attacks unless your backup contains exposed private keys. Stick to offline backups stored in secure locations. Cold storage, like hardware wallets, is still one of the safest options.
All right, I'm jotting all this down. But it feels like a lot of responsibility for us users. Shouldn't the Bitcoin network itself handle most of this?
You're right, and it is. The community is actively preparing, not just with BIP360, but by exploring post-quantum algorithms and funding research to find the best solutions. They're even collaborating with organizations like Spiral and Brink to support development.
Speaking of funding, did you know just a small contribution, say 3 Bitcoin, could support a year of research and testing for quantum-resistant upgrades?
3 Bitcoins, that's a lot of money.
True, but consider the stakes. The people funding this work are helping ensure Bitcoin remains secure for decades to come. It's an investment in the future.
Makes sense. So we've got modern wallets, address hygiene, staying informed, and offline backups. Anything else?
That's pretty comprehensive for now. The main point is this: the quantum threat isn't here yet, and we're far from helpless. With steps like BIP360 and an engaged community, Bitcoin is proving its resilience once again.
I'm feeling better already. But, Gerard, if quantum computing is so far off, why are we even talking about it now?
Because, Eddie, innovation waits for no one. Preparing now ensures Bitcoin isn't just ready for quantum computing. It thrives in spite of it.
Well said, Gerard. And with that, I think it's time to wrap up with some key takeaways. Ready?
Bring it on.
Lead the way, Muriel.
All right, let's bring it all together. Here are the key takeaways from today's episode about Bitcoin and quantum computing.
Lay it on me. I want the highlights.
First, while quantum computing sounds intimidating, it's not an immediate threat to Bitcoin. The technology isn't advanced enough yet, and Bitcoin's cryptographic systems remain secure. For now.
Phew, so no doomsday scenario just yet.
Exactly. Second, the Bitcoin community is already taking proactive steps like introducing BIP360 to prepare for a quantum future. This includes creating new quantum-resistant address formats and exploring cutting-edge cryptographic algorithms.
And let's not forget wallets are the priority. They're more vulnerable than mining, so the first step is moving funds to modern, secure wallets and avoiding public key exposure.
Right? Upgrade the armor before worrying about the castle walls. Got it.
Third, there are practical steps users can take today. Avoid reusing addresses, stick to modern wallets, and back up your funds securely in offline storage.
And keep an eye on Bitcoin updates, Eddie. Staying informed is half the battle. The community is your ally here, not just the developers, but also organizations funding this vital research.
Okay, so the big message is don't panic, but don't get lazy either. Be ready, right?
Perfectly summed up, Eddie. Bitcoin's future looks bright because of its active, forward-thinking community. Quantum computing may be a storm on the horizon, but Bitcoin's building the shelter before it hits.
I feel a lot better about all this now. And hey, if anyone listening has questions or thoughts, let us know. This is the kind of thing we want to hear from you about.
Indeed. Share your concerns, ideas, or even just your curiosity. After all, Bitcoin's strength is its community.
Absolutely. And on that note, thank you for joining us on the Neural Network podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review if you enjoyed this deep dive.
Stay curious, everyone. Catch you next time.
Until then, stay secure.
And as always, keep exploring the edges of technology with us. See you next time.
Cypherpunks unite in the Bitcoin's glow. Anarchy's path in the code we sow. Decentralized.